Good morning and welcome to another Foster and Marshall podcast where we ask the all-important questions and want to know the answers why. And unfortunately, we're having to revisit water. And given the strength of the documentary Dirty Business on Channel 4, probably now about 4 months ago, it would appear
please go and watch it,
the
everyone.
water companies just seem to be thinking that the water is going to flow under the bridge. Well, unfortunately, it's not going to flow and go away and dissipate anytime soon, because yet again, during this hot spell, the hot heat wave and everything that was associated with that, most young families will take to a river or go to the coast, mainly to just cool off and have fun in the water, splishing and splashing. And the local rivers down here in Devon, one in particular, caused 8 of those children to fall seriously ill. And we can only assume at this point that this is the effects of E. coli. And we hear this a lot about E. coli, but it's an incredibly serious condition to contract. It's life-threatening, as was depicted in Dirty Business, where that poor young child needlessly lost their lives because of the negligence of the sewerage works, and that was up and down the country. It's not just one, it's up and down the country. So I think we just have to keep highlighting this huge level of incompetency. And what do you think, Marshall?
Well, the water was tested, I believe, Foster, wasn't it, for E. coli, and it was way, well, anyway, it was there.
Above.
Yeah, way above. Just like Danny Dyer when he did that test in the sea. Have to say, we are so shocked. What I find is that it's incredibly frightening, really, that these people in power and these people that are supposed to be managing the waterworks have not changed. They've got locks on their gate, so you can't just walk in and inspect. They have to phone up and be given an appointment, and they're being left outside the gates for hours. These are inspectors. And then when they go in, they're not allowed to look at any reports, are they, Foster?
No. As you will see on that documentary, Dirty Business.
Yeah.
So I'm going to urge everyone, and I know Marshall feels the same because we've discussed this. You have a brilliantly set out set of evidence as to what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just don't think enough people have seen it. So that's why we're going to keep going on about it and highlighting it.
This is incredibly serious, everyone, because we are being poisoned. That sounds dramatic, but we are, because it's what's going into the water and into the water systems. There's pesticides going in, aluminium sulfate, fluoride, forever chemicals, and we're talking chemicals in which nobody's got any real idea other than knowing they're poisoning us. Now, I know from treating in the NHS, there are millions of people with cancers, all sorts of cancers, and it's as a direct result, in my opinion, my humble opinion, and from what I've known, I'm 70 years old. I've learned a lot, and being in the hospitals, seeing people suffering and knowing that all these poisons are going in and nobody is doing anything about it. And it's going to keep happening. Nobody is, what's the word, Foster? Nobody's watching over these managers of the so-called waterworks, which, by the way, are empty. They've got them on timers. On Dirty Business, please go and watch it because it's a big eye-opener. You've got a glamour girl and Peter, and forgive me, Foster, I've forgotten the other man's name that actually did the work and found out about the water companies and were the whistleblowers on it all. Can you remember his name? I can't remember. But anyway, the two men worked really hard on this and they blew the lid on it all. And anyway, they walked into the waterworks, they made an appointment, and actually I must say there was a man that worked at the waterworks that was so disgusted himself, and he joined forces with the two men, Peter and I just cannot remember his name at the moment.
It
Forgive
will
me.
come. I am actually
Yeah.
looking it up. So
Yeah.
I wanted to make
But,
sure that we give them credit.
Yeah, absolutely, because these were
It was
Ash.
Ash Smith and Peter Hammond. They were the two original investigators. And we have to remember that this is just two ordinary men who like spending time by the river, watching,
Fishing.
basically the wildlife, being connected to nature, minding their own businesses. They're two friends and they've noticed that something is off.
Very, very
with
wrong.
the water.
Dead fish, nothing's alive. The river's a shitty brown colour, literally, and it is. That's all it was, raw sewage. And I believe it was Peter, or they both did, tested the water. Absolutely.
It was Ash, I think. I think it was Peter that tested the water. Sorry, Marshall.
Absolutely disgusting. Now, I used to go swimming with my children. We all did as a family, didn't we, Foster?
Yes,
we'd go
we did.
swimming in the rivers without any worries, and the water was crystal clear. And we'd snorkel and watch the fish, which was absolutely divine. And this is everyone on this planet's God-given right to water. It comes from the sky. It's God-given to us all.
And it is freely given from the heavens above.
So these people have taken it upon themselves, JP Morgan being one of them, and all these different companies that have got involved, even China, unbelievable, to run these the waterworks, which they don't. It's all about money, corporate money and greed at everybody's expense. And they've taken it upon themselves to say, we're going to treat the water for you. We're going to clean it and give it through your tap water. Well, they're not. And they're not going to stop. They're going to keep on. Because the ultimate goal, whether anybody likes it or not, and it's proven to depopulate this planet. They are bringing in databases that are going to take millions and millions of gallons of water daily. Where are they going to get that water? I think we really seriously, everyone, please don't allow these databases to be built. They've got no right to just go. This is where power to the people and the governments, we're supposed to be given votes on what we want, what people, and then it's what the people want. These databases are going to be used ultimately to make human beings, and this is proven 100%, to make human beings part synthetic and part human. And they will take away all your everything, all your freedoms. A lot of people saw the Hunger Games, forget the Hunger Games, it's far, far worse. And this is not some hi-fi made up. It's all proven by professors and scientists about what they're going to do. And even CIA whistleblowers are coming out. Professors, this is 100% real. And all you young people out there, please don't get drawn in by it, because ultimately all your freedom will go. And we're only just learning what it's like to be human and all the powers we do have. We all have intuition, all of us, but we are dumbed down at schools. I don't care whether they're private, state, whatever, they're all dumbed down. There's only one person that got involved in education that taught people uniquely, every child is unique, was Steiner, Rudolf Steiner. Over to you, Foster.
Yeah, I actually have studied a lot of Steiner's work, and the way he approached education was really allowing the child to explore rather their creativity, and the emphasis was not necessarily on academia. That came latterly, and it was introduced in a very sort of creative, fun environment, a much more sort of outward expression, and getting the child to express themselves in a way that they feel comfortable, and recognizing who was actually academic and who was more sort of a manual
An artist,
or wanted to be creative.
Foster. Artistic as well.
Oh, yeah, well, this is it. All art, creative writing, poetry. And if you think of that, creative writing, this is what makes a good journalist. This is what makes a good writer. This is what, brings education into being. So although it sounds sort of mamby-pamby to say work on a child's creativity, that just leaves a whole plethora of different choices for a child to make in their life choice. From art you get your architects. Look at the architectures.
Yeah.
You get woodworkers, you get metal workers, you get engineers, you get inventors. So everything really starts with an idea and a vision in the creative mind. Right in that depth. And academia follows second on the left-hand side of the brain. So your right side is responsible for creativity and songwriting and speech and all of those wonderful things.
Yeah.
But I think for children, I think at the moment, children are being way too boxed in and just not given the chance to freely express themselves through
100%.
play and creativity. So I think this is why I was very interested in Steiner and the works of Steiner. Fascinating man, and some of the things that he was writing about way back,
that era,
200 years.
That era, Foster. The 1800s, wonderful, wonderful time.
Absolutely.
Wonderful inventors. And, I'm going to mention Nikola Tesla, another of my great, I'm crazy about the man Tesla. David Bowie wrote about him, made a film about him, the man who fell to earth. He was way above his time, as was Steiner, with teaching and many, many things with Steiner.
And even Einstein,
exactly.
Way above, and weren't necessarily academic. Some of these people, some of the greatest entrepreneurs and builders of businesses were actually dyslexic.
Yeah.
And they had to work through their creative mind. It's
Yeah.
with
This is the
dyslexia,
thing.
you are wired differently. Trust me, you are wired differently. You think differently. And just because they couldn't necessarily spell very well didn't mean that they didn't have the intellect and the intelligence. And we see that today. You know, some of the things that they were invented way back are still functional today, and we still rely on the works of Einstein. So, yeah, it's...
And that brings me to teaching. Now, I know that there are some really great teachers out there. Foster's one of them, by the way. But yeah, there are some great teachers. And I remember my very first teacher, Mrs. Taylor, absolutely wonderful lady. She would give us things to do as a young child. I started school at 5, and she would give us little beans to put a cocktail stick through it, put it on the cup at the top, or the jam jar. We were crazy about jam jars then, not plastic. It was jam jars. Put it over the top, fill the water up, and then watch it grow. Now, as a young child, that was fascinating. And we had a little vegetable garden outside the class, and a sand place, and a lovely field, beautiful fields to run about on and just be children. We also had a break in the class where she would pull all the blinds and we would have a break. They don't do that anymore now. And having that start in school was amazing. But then, sadly, Mrs. Taylor moved to Australia. I was very heartbroken then as a child. And this is the thing. I think in this busy world that parents are in now, they might not realize how a teacher or things can affect a little child. You can talk over a child and think they're not really taken on board, but actually, we were incredibly intuitive as children, weren't we, Foster? We are incredibly intuitive. Our pineal gland is working perfectly. And by the way, our pineal gland is full of fluid and it's got crystals in. And this is where the Egyptians talk about your third eye. But as regards teaching, then I had this horrific teacher called Mrs. Pepper. Now, I love pepper now on my food, but I still remember Mrs. Pepper. And she was quite a nasty, nasty lady. If you got a maths question wrong, or even if you were just at your desk and you're trying to learn, looking at the number, she would come over and pick on you. But if I made a mistake and took my book up, she would get a big wooden ruler and smack me right across my knuckles, and then I had to turn my hands over. And so, but the strange thing is, she ruined my maths for many years, but I learnt more leaving school. I did have some wonderful teachers, 3 in fact. A Mrs. Pears, which I remember dearly and see her now. I went from the bottom of writing to second top, and I have wonderful memories of that. And Mrs. Brailsford, who was just an adorable teacher, very kind, empathic. And this word, right, this means to feel for somebody or a child, to feel for them, see when they're upset, to be able to see that they need help and to be able to give it in a calm, loving way. Well, they can do a lot of damage if you've got a bad teacher. I found schooling horrific, and I would play truant a lot, and I learnt more going out, playing truant with nature, and by the way, nature is very, very special, 432 hertz, bird song and the trees and all the wildflowers and the fish in the river. I've learnt a lot about nature, but schooling, they can damage a child. And if you've not got support when you leave school, if you haven't got that support from your parents or there's problems, that can affect your life in a very negative way. If you're lucky enough to meet people that are empathic, that do care, do feel, are loving and caring and use that word love in a truly empathic, caring way, your life can be ruined. And this is where we come in with our health and wellness, Foster and I, because we've treated people and changed their lives literally. We've got full recommendations from them for us. And now over to you, Foster.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, again, very similar in journeys with you, Marshall, regarding my own journey at school. Yeah, I left way before I should have done and started work, basically. But I've spent my life on a lifelong yearning for learning, and I've learned and accomplished so much since leaving school.
Absolutely.
Learning techniques as to how to sort of manage dyslexia, and recognizing my strengths and weaknesses and building on my strengths to actually strengthen my weaknesses. So I think this is where we need to teach children how to be resilient. I think it's about resilience training as well, which is what we will be covering with our health and wellness podcast, which is coming soon. But I think there are some really, really good teachers. I think most teachers go into it because they're going to make a difference to children and really want to give them a nurturing space in which to learn. But again, it's like you've got this governing body that's bearing down on them, which is Ofsted, and they have these inspections, and it's actually just about ticking boxes. It's not really about educating the children, and for the heads of the schools, it's about meeting a target. They've set them targets that they have to fulfill, and I'm like, well, who are we trying to please here? This is not about taking children from point of learning, of not knowing anything, and then teaching them to read, write, and add up, and then nurturing them into recognizing their strengths so that they can take that out into their futures, into a future career. This is just about tick boxing for an organisation, a governing body. And these governing bodies are just literally names in the background. There's no face to them. It's just Ofsted. Who are Ofsted and why were they put there? If it was to actually increase the standard of education, I've yet to witness how it's actually improved schooling. In actual fact, I think it's led to some very de-stressed children who have a loathing of learning and don't feel comfortable in a learning environment, which is, similar to both of our, schooling then, Marshall. When you think, okay, so that we're going back a lot of years, we're going back sort of 60, for yourself, Marshall, that's 65 years.
Yeah.
And for me, it's sort
I'm
of
proud of it.
55.
And we're older and wiser, Foster, that's for sure.
Absolutely. We've but I can't see any improvement.
No,
If anything, I just see a deterioration.
it's gone
We
down
see large
like
classrooms.
everything.
And again, children are expected to take on way too much information at such a young age. It's not even relevant to a 5-year-old, some of the things that they're teaching now.
Sex education at 5. Sorry, no way. The first 7 years of a child's life, they're like sponges taking everything in. That is a very, very special time. And it should be for, as Foster has said, it should be for writing, art, finding out what that child's unique, wonderful ability is. And actual fact, to be perfectly honest, it can take a time for somebody to actually decide or feel what it is. They might suddenly wake up when they're teenagers. So when they're taught all this sex, sorry, who brought that in? I know a lot of parents that don't like it, but it's like people accept a lot of things that they shouldn't. And I think it's the fear factor. You don't want to be the odd one out going into the teacher and saying, I don't want my child being taught sex education at 5. Whereas if this is where division comes in. And it's where you all get together, isn't it? And say, no more. Don't you agree,
Absolutely.
Foster?
I think again, it's a modern condition because, again, Marshall, when we were children, mum didn't go out to work, and a lot of mums didn't. They were literally housewives and didn't have a career. Whereas now, everyone is expected to go out and fulfill a career in some shape or form, whether you're a mum or not. And almost, I mean, I had clients, and this is actually true story, I had clients that were absolutely terrified to tell their friends that they're actually taking a sabbatical from their career to be there for those first 5 years of their children's well-being, to be there with them and to help them and to nurture them. And they were actually afraid to say that they were going to be a housewife for 5 years. It felt like it was something to be ashamed of. And you really have to ask what's going on in society when you're not actually free to make a choice that you feel is right for you as a mum.
Exactly.
And
it's that same,
And in this particular case, well, there were two. Both the mums had struggled having, to become pregnant, and were having IVF. So when they actually had their baby, it was a real precious gift to them. And I know that there are lots of women out there that have had to take that road. And that road is not an easy one to take for the couple as a whole. But it's this, you've got to now go out to work. So the point I want to make here is that there's a pressure on both parents to work and to fulfill a career, and then they're putting their children in charge of people and basically trusting them, but not necessarily questioning enough about what is going on in the classroom and what is taking place, because they're so busy with their own careers. They have kind of lost sight of their children. And that whole family unit, very often it could be where it's single parents, and hats off to all the single parents out there doing what they do, because
men and women.
I admire them, because it's hard work, whether it's a man raising his child or whether it's a woman raising her child.
Absolutely.
You do need as much support as you can get. But I do think
The right
we've
support.
the right support, exactly, and that's another big grey area as to what we define as the right support here. So, yeah, I think this is a big subject. And how young do you take your children into nursery? I mean, I know that there were ladies, when I ran my practice, there were mums that had to start taking their children in at 6 months into
Excuse me.
nurseries and stuff. And it's, sometimes it's the nursery staff that are seeing the child take their first steps or say their first words. It's not something that the mum or, the mother or father get to see, which I think is
Well,
sad in itself.
here's a tip from me, and I think it's something that should happen and be mandatory, and that is to have cameras. I mean, after all, this government, they love cameras, don't they? Well, I'd like to see cameras in these nurseries. And actually, how about the classroom and see actually what is taking place with your child and what they're being taught?
Yeah, I agree.
It should all be where you can see,
Very
especially now.
transparent.
Yeah. Now,
Transparency.
regarding education, I'm not going to say their names, so I'm going to call them the Cabal. And this is a fact and it's true. They got together like a club of them. And they saw the potential for taking over schools because they weren't content with taking over hospitals, which we'll go into another time. Let's stick to the education. So they started taking over the education. Now, the Cabal sent their children out to be bankers around the world, and they did the same with education. And what they realised was they have children that are going to be politicians and who they wanted. And they systematically did this. And that is what happened in this country. And I have something to say about history. We are not taught any truth about history, the true history of mankind, this beautiful planet we're on that has been taken over by the Cabal is absolutely beautiful. And it has been said the whole planet is Atlantis and it's been taken over. But if you look at what's going on and how the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle about what's happening to us all, you should be able to see it. So we've got them taking over the education, brainwashing. It is brainwashing. It's like Darren Brown's push, for real. And then I find out that Ghislaine Maxwell, yes, Ghislaine Maxwell, that dark woman who lured young girls to Epstein Island, her sister, Christine Maxwell, decided she was going to get herself, because they're part of the Cabal, into history. So they've taken over the history in our schools. So they're not being taught any truth about the history of this country. And everybody should know that and take that on board. So if she's in there doing history, I'm going to leave it there, because I wouldn't want my child being taught by any of them. And that's the fact. So
No. No, I think that there is I do feel that there is a level of mistrust now within these big organisations. And actually, history is one of the subjects that has started to disappear from the curriculum altogether.
There we are.
So
There we
where they
have it,
couldn't
Foster.
necessarily manipulate it or hide it, they've decided to take it off the curriculum, so the children aren't actually even being taught it.
Well,
Because they
they're
want
taught, excuse me, Foster. She's got, this is actual fact. She is doing this. So what she's done is they're being taught another type of history.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
what I
not
was
the
going to
truth.
say.
Sorry,
They're actually,
Apologies.
what they've done is they've taken the real history, put that to one side, have all the old history books taken away and removed, and have rewritten it to suit their narrative, which is very, very concerning. I've actually, follow really good historians, and they're very much in arms over what is going on with history and the way it's being
Graham Hancock,
mistaught
for one.
throughout the
Graham Hancock.
well, that's archaeology, isn't it? That's ancient history.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, Marshall. He's pushed that boundary where they sort of said, oh, right, 5,000 years ago, we could suddenly build a pyramid, and then all of a sudden we couldn't. But in actual fact, it goes way, way, way back, further and further. And you do have to wonder why we can't build a pyramid today. Even if we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to find the structure or the intelligence to be able to perform that build. They did try to they actually tried to replicate it, and they couldn't do it. And the way they think that it was built doesn't necessarily. We're talking about something quite unique and quite phenomenal, and I think we'll talk about that more in a different,
more in depth.
on a different podcast, because there is so much more to the human mind and the human capability that, again, through this dumbing down through education, children just aren't not allowed to learn. But we have geniuses. We still have geniuses. There are some unique people out there. And this is why I'm just going to do a little bit of a U-turn, Marshall, if you don't mind. But I'm just going to put this out there and say, with all the genius minds and all of those wonderful entrepreneurs and inventors, I would like to see them looking at ways of purifying water on a large scale. I think we're in the 21st century. We should have, if the Egyptians could build pyramids, and
they also had water systems better than we have now.
So why, if we had great engineers then, all those thousands of years ago, why are we relying on this substandard purification system that just is not working? And why are we allowing this to be just dumped into our rivers, destroying the ecosystem?
It's our question on why, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's where we are. Why, oh, why?
Yeah.
Can we not be stopping this now and looking at reinventing and looking at ways of real purification of our drinking water to help us all? We have Mother Nature that does it, but we also need, because of the large number of people in one particular, any particular country, we need to be looking at this worldwide. This isn't just it's not just country world, it's worldwide. So all of those wonderful entrepreneurs out there, get inventing and look at stuff on a bigger scale. because there's money, there's people out there with the money to support you.
Absolutely, and it's not rocket science, because charcoal is a filter, it's a cleanser. I mean,
Well,
they
and
use...
we know, don't we, Marshall, that really Mother Earth does a pretty good job
Oh,
of
100%.
purifying, because
Spring
it goes through
water.
all the rocks and through all the
Absolutely.
whole natural filtration. Really what we need to do is to look at ways of reusing, or at least turning it into something that's of value. After all, when you think about this, I know this isn't a subject for the morning or breakfast time especially, but when you think we use animal fertilizer, we were good on using animal manure that was seasoned for a year. In other words, it was left to stand for a year, and then could be re-put onto the land for to nourish the soil. And that was how natural farming was done on a grand scale. And then all of a
Absolutely.
sudden, everything was being pushed with chemical fertilizers. But in actual fact, our animals, from the cows to sheep to horses, all of this is wonderful manure for
Also,
growing
rhinos
crops.
in the wildlife parks now. Honestly, this is true, Foster.
Mm.
The rhino, it's
Rhino
apparently
poop.
even better.
Yeah, rhino poop.
Can I just add, because I found all this out, because thinking about where we used to live, they were great vegetable farmers. And I found out that one of the greatest things for fertilizing the soil as well is stinging nettles, soaking them in water.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, it's incredibly, incredibly powerful.
Yep,
But I
it's a
think
great
we
fertilizer.
we need to look at how they were doing everything naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is the thing, isn't it? It's this, obviously we come from the complementary medical field where we were looking at the use of natural herbs and natural medicine that was used in Egyptian times, and still experiencing the benefit of that in modern life. Here we are in 2026 and we still treat people with our knowledge. But, more and more it seems to be, being the natural method where we're actually working with nature and aligning with nature seems to be being pushed further back. A bit like the real history, push. Oh, we've got some young minds here. We'll just basically fill them up with BS. It's just
BS.
lies. And we're just going to make up our own history. Let's just play the game. It's like Simple Simon says. We'll just make it all up as we go along, and everyone's going to comply with what we want.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, when we used to play the imaginary games, that was actually for the playground. We're actually all grown up now, and I think we can see what's actually going on. It's time to lift the veil and see the truth. Turn on the lights, make the coffee.
I really do feel for people being put in this fear, which is what they do is for control is they'll put all the cost of food up, all the cost of fuel up, most of which would be free if Nikola Tesla had had his way, but they sorted Nikola Tesla out well and truly, that cabal. And he died a very lonely elderly man in a hotel room. Yeah, it was very sad. And hats off to David Bowie for bringing his name up and putting him out there. The whole thing, you can see it all. And people need to realise that we're all in the same boat and we cannot let them have these data centres. please don't let them have these data centers built. Everybody should be asked whether we want data centers. We should be asking what they're for. We should be allowed to be inspected about what they're. But it's pretty bad.
I think this is another podcast for the future, Marshall, to be honest with you. I think that we're going to be working and touching on that in the future, because it's, like you're being told about net zero, we've got to stop doing this to save the planet, we've got to stop doing that. But in actual fact, they're not stopping.
Yeah, the very thing.
The very thing that they need to stop. Like, why would we need a data center?
Yeah, exactly.
We're taking up really valuable, arable land for crops and things to put rows of solar panels, which is always sad to see on the horizon in the countryside. So I think I think this level of invention has just taken a little bit of a downward spiral, because I don't think it has been trialed enough. And I also heard that you can't store electricity, so they actually dump it.
Yeah,
they do
I
electricity
found that
dump
out recently. I'm so shocked.
I know. So hang on a minute. But so they're dumping electricity, but has our electricity bills come down? I think the answer to that is a big fat no. So again, this is where you need to question everything and ask, okay, why? Why are you dumping electricity because you're overproducing it, but not handing that out as a saving to the consumer? Yeah. So, I think we'll carry on with this at a later date, Marshall, because I think it just gets where you could go on and on and on. And I think the song that resonates in my head is Pave Paradise, Put Up a Parking Lot. And when that was sung, little did we know that here we are in 2026 doing exactly that.
Well, there was a program, and he always used to say, "Power to the people." It was
Citizen Smith. That's Citizen Smith.
Power to the people, and it is power to the people. But if they have their way now, we won't have that power.
No, we are on the precipice. We're on the precipice here. I do feel it.
Everybody, please. And believe you me, Foster and I, we've been homeless. We know what it's like not to have food and to have, we really do, don't we, Foster? We've been there.
We know what hardship feels like.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The power of your mind, and it is absolutely, I can't instill this enough in everyone. Your thoughts are powerful. They're phenomenal. And we are all on a conscious. We really are, every single one of us. Just think positive, and it will happen. You will be given the strength. You will be given the strength to say no and speak out more about things.
Question everything.
Question everything and ask why.
Yeah, question everything, which is our title of our podcast, where we question everything and ask why. And I think this is really hitting out, as Marshall quite rightly said, to the young people, because it's your time now to shine, and it's your life. And it's your
beautiful
you've
world.
got to think about your future. You have to take your future into your own hands. We can only do so much now, but you now are in the driving seat. You are the driver of your own destiny.
They are.
So what you've said about positive thinking, Marshall, is really, really important for the young.
Nikola
But
Tesla, imagination is key, and it is. You imagine in your head, you're drawing, you're an artist in your head. Imagine it. See the colours, what you want, how you want your life to be, what you want, what you don't want. It will happen. I've done it. Foster's done it. It's real.
Absolutely.
It's fact. It's science.
It absolutely is. And that goes back to what we were talking about, education in the early part of this discussion, is that children need to have that space to create, because they are technically creating their own destiny, their own future,
Imagination
all through
is
the
key.
power of creativity through their mind's eye.
Absolutely, Foster.
Yeah.
And I would like to say a massive, massive thank you for everyone who's liked, subscribed. You can say whatever you want, and we'll be there, and we will answer any questions you've got and your comments when we can. We are pretty busy organising our health and wellness, but believe you me, we do read them, and we know, we're on it, and we really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, so remember to like and subscribe. Like and
Absolutely.
subscribe. Yeah. And, I always say at the end, stay happy, stay healthy, and importantly, stay sane until the next time.
Absolutely. Bye for now.
Bye for now.